Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 765 Northeast Cochran Avenue here in Gresham. Located at the front of the house, we are just to the right of the doorway. It's as you face the house from the street, that's how I describe everything. Should you ever lose track of this clean out, which I doubt it sticks up high enough. It sits absolutely perfectly straight out from the hose bib here. Maybe not even a foot away from the house. Anyway, checking the overall condition, serviceability of the sanitary sewer line, dropped into 3-inch ABS pipe. We are zeroed out, waters are running, off we go here. So if you notice right here, I'm going to give you a little fun sewer tidbit. We're going to take a second look at that, but with that little bit of debris there at the top of the pipe, my camera's sideways right now, that stuff you see hanging there, what that is from it's from a past blockage, and the blockage looks like it was probably, well, we do have some standing water here. Anyway, I like to point those things out. Blockages happen all the time without people even realizing it's happened. A lot of them occur. People flush too much stuff down the line, you get a temporary blockage. And a lot of times head pressure will cause a blockage to break loose on its own. You have no idea it even happened. Reason I'm talking about that is this line is incredibly clean. I don't know if it's been hydrojetted preemptively for the sale. There is some standing water there, so it wouldn't surprise me if that's why it's so clean. It got cleaned up, but what I'm getting to is a lot of homes do not mind the rule of not putting cooking oil and grease down the line. It is the #1 thing that will gunk your pipe up, and it causes more blockages than almost anything you can do to your sewer line. So, if this line is indeed this clean because of the homeowners, they're doing a great job of keeping their cooking oil and grease out of the line. When you keep your pipes clean, those temporary blockages like that kids often create with balled up toilet paper are far more likely to break loose on their own than they are to result in a full-on sewer event. That grease buildup acts like glue, and it causes blockages that would otherwise make their way out to get stuck very effectively. So this is an example of quite a clean sewer line. Most sewer lines you'll see some level of grease buildup in them. So I just wanted to give you that, especially if this is a first-time home for you. It's a very good habit to keep up on. Not dumping your pans down the sink. You want to wipe them out with a paper towel, pour the grease into a jar, and you can keep your line looking clean. And we swapped over to 6-inch concrete there a moment ago. As I pull back in, I'm going to take a locate of that transition to see how much, if any, of that concrete still is on property. We're in a part of town here where the city, generally speaking, takes responsibility for the sewer line. Once you reach it's at least the right-of-way, if not the street edge. So much of this concrete pipe will likely fall into city territory, which is a good thing. Concrete does not hold up quite as nicely as plastic pipe does. All right, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out on Northeast Cochran Avenue. As you face the house from the street, the line crosses from right to left. It gets almost to the driveway, but it turns and shoots out to the street before getting to that point. It's crossing the driveway crossing the curb right between the mailbox and the right side edge of the driveway. The line's still draining out. This pipe here, this is city territory anyway. I'm mostly concerned about the standing water at the beginning of the line. We're going to see how that looks once it's all drained out. But typically speaking, I've been doing this 13 years. I've cambered about 25,000 sewer lines. It is an extremely, extremely rare occurrence to see that level of standing water and have essentially zero buildup in it. Not that it's impossible, but it's very, very difficult to accomplish that, even when you are treating your line nicely. Okay, so the line transitions to concrete right around where I think the right-of-way begins at. We're getting pretty darn close to the for sale signpost. If you see those areas along just prior to a sidewalk where you get utility boxes and things like that for, fiber utilities of that nature, that's about the area where you often see these transitions in this part of town. Now, at the top of my head, I can't remember. This part, Gresham does accept responsibility for the line, like much of Multnomah County. Last time I was out here, or at least it hurt, I believe Gresham takes theirs even further back than the street curb. I want to say it's at the right-of-way. So, anyway, you do have portions of this concrete pipe here that may fall into into homeowner responsibility. Getting out to about this realm right here. Everything from approximately this point forward is going to be off into city's responsibility with certainty. Anyway, the concrete pipe here is not problematic. It drains properly. It's showing a little bit of wear and tear. That's normal for concrete pipe at this age. There's no major buildup in it. Like that right there, that's a ball of toilet paper. Part of the reason that's not traveling terribly well is because it's a big ball of toilet paper. But it is moving on its way. I'm more concerned about the fact that, like this standing water right here at the base of a vertical drop, this distance from the house, this is not the kind of standing water I'm concerned about here. This is very, very minor stuff. This belly here runs from about 29 feet to 31 feet, and you're barely holding. That water line is just barely hitting the bottom of my camera lens there. I mean, maybe a quarter of an inch. Anyway, if you're blocking up your line in a belly that tiny, you are putting some crazy stuff down your sewer line. That would come down to just purely the homeowner alone. Standing water that small has almost no bearing on functionality whatsoever. The standing water closer into the home, though, is more concerning. And a lot of it's the configuration of the line. You've got a turn right out of the gate. I'm going to pull back in here and just kind of look at the depth of the water. I did have a bathtub running, which puts a pretty high volume amount of water down the line that can exaggerate standing water quite a bit. Thus far, what we've gone through here into this other belly, that end portion of it there was only about a 1/16 of an inch. But as we get closer in here, it looked like it got a bit deeper than that, but we'll see. And see, the top of the pipe here is showing some level of staining at it. So it's that kind, and it's not a significant amount of staining. Mostly, the thing I like about seeing that is that shows me this line has likely not been hydrojetted recently. That's evidence that you're getting a fairly natural look at what this line is doing. Otherwise, if someone had recently run a jetter through there, the stuff at the top of the pipe there, that little bit of a film, would be gone. So this is one of those bellies that the standing water is at a level here where, by and large, this could become problematic, mostly as it relates to how the line is being treated. Like right here, we're hitting close to an inch of standing water. It's the conjunction of the fact you've got a turn immediately out of the gate. Turns are already natural pinch points in a sewer line that slow things down. Anytime something goes around a turn, it slows down. It's the more likely spot. In fact, the only spot in the line where you have really any debris hanging from the top of the pipe that's notable was right on that turn. But that's about it. I mean, if I've got a sewer line that I can't even barely recommend a few dollars in drain cleaning on, it's not typically one I'm going to recommend you jump straight to just tearing up the yard and fixing. For the most part, most of the standing water here is remaining at a fairly minimal level. It's around a 1/16 to a 1/4 inch. You get one spot in here where it gets a little bit deeper. That you get up to somewhere around a 1/2 to maybe as much as 3/4 of an inch, but there's no buildup. I'm going to run backwards here really quick. This is the part that makes me a little bit more concerned, though. So the top of the sewer line is displaying backup evidence. You've got debris stuck to the top of the pipe going all the way back into here. So it's possible it hasn't been jetted recently, but that's This is the reason why I go backwards sometimes. This is the part of the line that rarely gets hydrojetted. So all those things put together, I mean, if I see evidence of backups right there, if you see that debris hanging from the top of the pipe, that debris gets there from one circumstance only, and that is a sewer backup occurs. There is no other way for the water to hit the top of the pipe like that. So I don't know if this has been cleaned recently or not, but with all of those things put together, that is a spot I'm going to recommend a fix on. Does it mean the line is not functioning? No, it is a functioning sewer line, but it is draining slower than it should. I can't necessarily recommend you hydrojet the heck out of this thing, but when I run backwards there, I'm seeing evidence of at least one backup that's occurred, and it went all the way back into the house. It's not one that blocked for a moment and then busted loose. It looks like a full-on backup occurred. So out here, do about 17 feet. I'm going to do some locating really quick here and see where this is at. Well, I'm going to have to take some photos of this. I'm going to take a photo of my locator on the ground. My dang paint can got pinched into my locator box just right to where something sat on the nozzle and let all the gas leak out of it. So I can't put paint down there. But where we're sitting right there is almost perfectly in front of the front door out in the yard. About 2 foot 4 inches deep is what I'm getting there, so not crazy deep. And if for some reason the line is not repaired, the big thing is a lot of this comes down. You can mitigate buildup hugely by how you treat the sewer line. And keep in mind, this belly is going to look more and more minor every time I go back through here if I'm not running water through to replace the water my camera's sloshing out of it. Right now it looks much smaller than it was. Anyway, at this thing's deepest point, it was close to 1 inch of water. And where I typically start recommending repairs is around the 1 inch mark. And there's a fair amount of those I don't. It's the conjunction of all these things put together. It's the fact that immediately after a turn in the line, you have a belly starting. We've got backup evidence, all those things put together. So if repairs are not done, the big things to keep up with: no cooking oil, bacon grease, stuff like that, wipes, paper towels, flushable wipes. Try and fold your toilet paper. Those are things that help quite a bit to help keep buildup down. And I'm going to send a photo of her. I've got some pictures of my locator sitting on the ground, and the direction the locate wand is facing is the orientation of the line. But I'll go over that with my S Pen and draw on the photo. The tricky part here is I'm getting about 2 foot 3, 2 foot 4 inches right in front of the clean out. You have very, very little depth to work with. So this is when you're going to have to talk to an installer about. There are circumstances where you've got such tight grade to work with that, you know, you go and take a 17-foot belly and it requires you actually have to redo about 30 feet of sewer pipe. If it's getting to that realm to repair this thing, in my opinion, it's not worth going to that extent. This is not a significant enough belly that it warrants redoing massive portions of the sewer line. That's my 2 cents on it. So it's one thing when you've got 1 foot 6 inches here and 2 foot 5 inches at the end of the belly, and you've got about a foot of depth to work with, and it just settled due to really uncompacted soil. In this case, you've got a flat yard here. It's not built up at all, and you've got very, very little depth to work with. So that's going to be a factor in how this thing gets repaired. There are circumstances where a 15-foot belly requires redoing 2 to 3 times the length of pipe to actually chase the grade down. In my opinion, this is not a significant enough belly to warrant that level of repair work. So if it can be done within reason, I would recommend it. If it goes into the ridiculous realm, I don't think it's worth messing with. All right, we're going to go ahead and reel the camera out of the sewer line here. Getting a very similar depth across the whole length. That's a trickier spot to locate there because it does pass underneath the little maple tree out here. The other thing to keep in mind too, sometimes you can regain some grade. If you notice when we go back into here, the line does go up a decent vertical drop here. That's a spot where you could chase some grade back down, but that's going to require you get involved in dealing with interior pipe as well, which just adds more and more cost onto things. You do have some very minor standing water back in here, but it's exactly that. It's extremely minor. So that's my 2 cents on it. If it can be done within reason, you can basically repair the belly as it is. I would recommend doing it. If you've got to get into the crawl space and start, I mean, really a huge undertaking to correct this. This is not one of those bellies I would recommend going to that level of effort over. The plus side here is this whole thing is about 2.5 feet deep and it's under dirt. It's not, you're not cutting driveways or anything crazy like that, but now I'm a little bit concerned about the feasibility of this one because the depth is so, you've got so little depth to work with. So I would run that past a repair company and see what it will require to get this one corrected. If repairs don't happen, again, going back to what I was saying, wipe your pans out with a paper towel. If it's a little thin coating of PAM spray, that's no big deal. Hot water and soap handles that. It's when you're putting real quantity of grease and cooking oil down the sink that you want to mitigate it to some extent. You know, like I was saying, let your pans cool, wipe them out, pour it in a jar. The other stuff is not putting wipes, paper towels, flushable wipes are included in that. Stuff that does not disintegrate and break down readily. That's the big stuff that hangs up in bellies. Folded toilet paper, although it may slow down, it's going to disintegrate on its own, so does human waste. So if repairs do happen, I recommend rescoping after the repair is completed. And you want to do that once the trench is closed, not beforehand, or you're not going to catch any settling problems that occur. And then some households, if you've got a big household, you know improper stuff's going down the line. It happens. I don't beat anybody up. They've got a bunch of kids and better things to do than wash their sewer pipes all day long. Some folks do opt to do periodic hydrojetting. What I recommend doing, if it doesn't get corrected, is rescoping at about the 1 year mark. There's little enough debris in here right now. I don't recommend cleaning it. There's no need for it right now, but you do want to rescope at the 1 year mark, and that gives you a baseline for how the pipe is handling your living habits and whether you need to adjust any living habits and or decide to do, you know, maybe yearly or every other year hydrojetting to keep buildup to a minimum. Otherwise, the rest of the sewer line here has good flow, is either in good condition or in fair condition for its age, i.e. the concrete pipe, and is functioning properly at this time.